feel like before we start this movie, we should do something positive and making fun of you, because I feel like people are going to hate me after I discuss this movie.
Well, they're going to hate me as well, probably. But
right. So this week's movie is Annihilation.
Yes.
It was an audience pick that you took as your choice.
Yes, because I actually, after watching the trailer, I was interested in seeing the movie.
Right. So I think it came after Jackie yes. because of your love for Natalie Portman.
Well, I do like Natalie Portman. She's very talented. Yes.
So I think people suggested it to you for that reason. So I'm Shay.
I'm Tyler.
It's cinematically correct. Yeah, so I want to start with people blaming you before they get angry at me. So, because you're so good at trivia, I decided to find a trivia quiz for Natalie Portman, because you love her, so you must know everything about her, I have to assume.
Obviously, I know all things about every actor that is talented.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're on the same page. So it's a really short quiz, but I thought it would be fun to do. So, okay, so it's about Natalie Portman, and the title of the quiz is How Well Do You Know Natalie Portman? So yeah, it says, in which film did Natalie debut in 1994? Your options are Heat, Leon the Professional, Everyone Says I Love You, or Mars Attacks.
Leon the Professional.
Okay, correct. It literally just says correct, so it's really a really high quality quiz. In which fantasy saga did Natalie Portman play a leading female character?
Star Wars?
I didn't even have to give you options. Correct. Considering we were just talking about that prior to the recording, but fine. Which character did Natalie Portman play in Star Wars?
Queen Amidala or Padme?
Okay. I don't have to give you even choices, so you must really love her. You won't know this. The face of which the face of which fashion brand is Natalie? You can choose from Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Christian Dior, or Prada.
Christian Dior.
Correct. Wow.
Victory.
I don't know how you got that. Totally random.
Wild guess. Yeah.
Which university did Natalie graduate from in 2003? You've got Brown, Harvard, Oxford, or Yale.
I want to say Yale. It's Yale or Harvard? I want to say Yale.
Incorrect.
Harvard?
She went to Harvard.
Yeah. It was one of the two.
Well, narrowing 4 down to 2 isn't that impressive, but okay. 2 more. For which movie did Natalie win an Academy Award? You can have Goya's Ghosts, Black Swan, V for Vendetta, or The Other Boiling Girl.
Black Swan.
Correct. Dang. All right, you're not helping alleviate pain here. For which role did Natalie shave her head? Goya's Ghost, V for Vendetta, My Blueberry Nights. Yeah, I mean, obviously. And then finally, what is the name of Natalie's husband? I can't pronounce half of these, so we're going to try. Devendra Bonhart, Benjamin Millipede, Ashton Kutcher, or Darren Aronofsky.
I was going to say Ashton Kutcher. No, he's married to Mila Kunis. Darren Aronofsky.
Incorrect. She's married to Benjamin Millipede, or Millipede, something like that. Don't know who that is.
I don't either.
So if anyone knows who that is, hit me up, let me know. I'll watch a movie by him if he's in movies. I don't know. Whatever.
I think I did fairly well.
You did fairly well. You actually got almost all of them correct, except for her husband and then where Harvard. She went to school. Yeah. So, anyways, so we can get into the movie, but please, guys, we already have single-digit download numbers at this point. Please don't
pity us on us.
Yeah, please don't stop listening.
Have mercy.
Yeah, but I believe in honesty and transparency in these things, so we're going to be honest about the film, even though it was an audience pick.
Yes. So, brief synopsis, I guess, to start.
Brief synopsis.
Sure, go ahead.
Although, God help me, I mean, I don't have a...
Just give a brief synopsis of, how you interpreted the film. It doesn't have to be completely accurate.
So, it's about some kind of alien asteroid or meteorite that hits the Earth at a lighthouse. And it creates some kind of distortion field. And people are sent in by the government to observe it, because of course they are. That's what the government does. And unsuccessful up until the point where the movie takes place. And they send in a wave of female researchers and scientists. And the movie follows them through their expedition in the distortion. And you see all weird, kind of trippy things.
Yeah, that's about what happens.
That's the movie, yeah.
I mean, I would have told it more from the perspective of Natalie Portman's character, Lena, but, it's
a
all
brief
good.
synopsis.
Yeah. So this movie is narrated through a person, which is important when we think about this film to remember that it was told from an unreliable narrator. So I think that this movie, we struggle with what was real and what was...
Well, I think that was the intent. I also think that it was just hard to follow in general. I think that's not entirely the movie's fault, because I had researched that this is based off a book series, and this is the first book of the series, so we're not getting the complete picture anyway.
And also, the director did not reread the source material. He basically did it from memory.
Yeah, so he pulled a Tyler. It just winged it. Smart.
I mean, people say that it went well. This movie seems to have quite a cult following from what I can tell from my research. So, I mean, and a lot of the people that read the book were very happy with the movie.
Really?
I've seen that it's being compared to Lovecraft. So, I mean, I do enjoy Lovecraft, and the
it did have a Lovecraftian kind of feel to it. It did have a surreal kind of nature to the movie. It was almost a Salvador Dali painting mixed with a movie.
Right. But yeah. Anyways, so let's go with the characters, because we generally do that. So obviously Lena would be the first person that comes to mind.
Natalie Portman's character, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, what were your thoughts on her originally? Did they change as you saw what happened in the movie?
I mean, not really. I mean, Natalie Portman is very good at everything she does. She's a very talented person. I think she's contractually obligated to cry in every movie she's ever in, because it's so expressive and you just have to feel for her. Every movie I think I've ever seen her in, she's crying her eyes out. And I can't think of one that she does not cry.
Fair. I mean, guys, if you have a Natalie Portman movie where she does not cry, let us know, because the main movie I can think of that you have not seen that she's in, I think she cries. So
which movie is that?
I'm blanking on the name currently, so that's hoping you would not ask, because anyway.
So she's a person that served in the military, is a college professor in terms of medicine, cellular biology. So she's very on the ball and bright. Natalie Portman is also very bright. She went to Yale or Harvard. We just learned that.
Woo!
So she went to Harvard, so she's obviously smart.
But now, did it bother you that her character was either cheating on her husband, or the shimmer made her realize a hidden desire to cheat on her husband? I'm not sure which way that went, but...
Well, I think she did cheat on her husband, because they had that whole conversation with the other professor where he's like, you spend more time with me than you do your husband.
Right, I just didn't know if that was real.
I think it was real, and it was just a memory. And the shimmer is making her remember things about her past. And I apologize, the dog is driving us crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that is possible, but that didn't bother you at all.
I mean, it wasn't a great look for Natalie Portman's character in this movie to cheat on your husband while he's away serving in the military. But that does kind of happen sometimes. That's actually an unfortunate side of the military that no one talks about.
I mean, yeah, but then to me, it took away from the heroic, I want to go in there and do everything I can to help my husband, because I felt like it was more a self-serving thing, where it was like, I want
guilty.
She was a guilty conscience. Was doing I need to do everything I can to absolve myself from the fact that I've already hurt him so much, the fact that it made him feel the need to do this to himself in the first place, that now I need to kind of clear the slate. Which I didn't think was a great look, and I feel like they didn't really play it up that much, but it was kind of like, ooh, she's not a very likable character.
I know. I don't think a lot of these characters are able to connect a whole lot with. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of character development that I was able to grasp onto. Like,
right. So let's move into her husband then.
Her husband is in like 6 scenes in this whole movie, but he's a very influential character, despite the limited screen time. It's almost Hannibal Lecter-esque, but not the same level of performance as Anthony Hopkins, obviously, where he is a central part of this movie, but he's only in 5 minutes of it.
Right. So, first of all, I didn't even recognize him as anybody I knew. Now, since I've looked up IMDb, I know that he was in Star Wars.
Yes.
But I honestly didn't like him. I found him very annoying, very monotone, very kind of just weird.
Deadpan. It was just he was almost going through the motions. And I don't know if that was an intentional choice because
he was an alien.
As we find out later in the movie, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, he turned out to be an alien.
Right, and it could have been that, but it just, I don't know, like, it just kind of made me, like, the whole movie, I was kind of like, I just don't like that dude. Like, I just don't.
I don't think any of the characters were really likable in this movie, if I'm going to be honest. There was no, oh yeah, I really hope this person does well, or I hope that person doesn't get mauled by a zombie bear.
Right, which I think made it a little bit harder to stay with the plot, because I kind of just didn't care.
Yeah, I think that is entirely fair. If I was going to have one criticism of the movie, other than being hard to follow a lot of the time, I didn't really connect with any of the characters.
Right. Now, there really aren't any other very large characters. I mean, there are, of course, the scientists that go into the Shimmer with her.
Right, the psychologist, which was the team leader, the paramedic that is played by the woman who plays Jane the Virgin. That's the only thing I've ever seen her in.
I've never seen her in anything.
There was the girl physicist that turned into a tree. Also spoilers. And then there was the woman that got mauled by the zombie bear.
Right. But I mean, you never really got to connect with any of them.
Right.
I didn't feel for any of them. I mean, yeah, like obviously when people die, you're kind of like, oh, that kind of stinks. But like,
I mean, the only scene that had any kind of connectivity to it was when they're talking about the being damaged, and that's why they're doing it. And when the woman's talking about her
drug addiction,
the not having any friends for the other person.
One of them had cancer.
One of them lost a daughter to cancer, or lost a daughter. It was just they were all a bit of a group of misfit toys, like the old claymation reindeer specials. Yeah. So that was the only humanizing moment in the whole movie. The rest of it was just kind of following along, and it's like, well, these characters are going on a mission. They haven't explained anything, and we're just along for the ride, and hopefully we figure it out as we go. Right.
Now, okay, so for people that don't know, basically what happens in the movie is at the very beginning of the movie, she is, skipping ahead a few scenes, you find out she's a professor, and, you learn that her husband is, you don't know if he's dead or if he's MIA, but she doesn't have him, and it's been a while from what other people are saying, and she decides to go home and paint her bedroom.
Right.
And her husband comes home. And
somehow he just shows up.
Yeah, he just shows up. He's acting really weird, and all of a sudden he has a medical emergency, starts coughing up blood. She brings him to the hospital, and they get taken by the CIA or...
Well, it's some secret government organization of some kind.
Right.
Where they just black bag you and take you to an undisclosed location.
Right. Now that jarred me because I did not know that any government agency would take somebody who was in that dire medical health. I really thought that they would let them get the medical treatment they needed. Even if they had to stay outside the room waiting until they were stable, I didn't realize that they would literally let a person who's hemorrhaging blood do that. I was just surprised that was jarring.
Oh, no, the U.S. government has done some shady things in the past, and now I'm on a list somewhere.
Yeah, you're releasing this publicly. Are you sure you want to say that?
They don't have a sterling track record in some cases. The majority of time, we have due process, we have the right to an attorney, all of that. But certain times, the U.S. government has gone off the rails.
Right. Well, anyway, so that was jarring to me. But then she wakes up and finds out that her husband basically went into this, shimmer, as they call it, and it basically looks like the inside of a bubble. And
it's dishwater or like oil spill on a pond type color.
Right.
In the air. It's kind of really odd and surreal. It was very pretty and wonderful colors and cinematically appealing, but...
Right. But she finds out he went in there, and everybody else who's ever gone in there has not come back, and he was the only person ever to come back.
Right.
And he was obviously not doing well, but they still want to know how he came back, why he came back, all of these things. So she decides, after a little bit of time there and talking to other people, that she is going to go in with a bunch of other women, scientists, to learn what's going on and try to help her husband. Right. So that's basically what happens. And when she gets into the shimmer, she is like collecting cells and trying to like understand like how this thing grows and what it is and what it does and
supposedly it's just refracting and changing the molecular biology and the DNA of things on a cellular level. So it's changing everything down to the cells, which is an interesting concept.
Right.
And they did it well, but it almost felt like they didn't have anywhere to go from there.
Right. Well, I mean, my first question, too, was going to be, do you feel if you were faced with that choice that you would have made the same choice as her, as to go into this place knowing that no one else has come out except for your husband who is hemorrhaging blood? Well, your wife it would be because
right.
you're a man, but...
Well, I happen to be straight, but thank you for...
You know what I meant. I just mean... Anyway, don't do
Regardless,
that.
Not without a hazmat suit, no.
Well, yeah, so that was the first thing that kind of, like, jumped out, was, like...
She's being interviewed by people in hazmat suits, and they just sent her along.
Yeah, that... I mean,
no, I'm not doing that.
We just recently watched...
Arrival,
where they were wearing hazmat suits in situations where they didn't need to, so now this is the reverse.
Well, they were just being overly cautious, which, in my understanding, would probably be the case.
Well, right.
If I had to guess.
You would think, especially when nobody else has come out alive
right.
and you don't know why. So, anyways, that was jarring. But so you would go in, though, even if you...
Well, I would have a hard time going in. It would be different if you were critically injured and you had gone in and the only way to help you is to go in. Yes.
Well, right.
But if there's no reason, or there's no real reason for me to go, no, I ain't going.
Right.
Nope.
I think the thing that stood out to me was she was going in to find answers.
Right.
But there was no reason to believe that there were answers to be had by going in there.
Right.
So her only thing that she could definitely do for her husband is be with him. And that she chose not to do. And that seemed odd to me. Because it wasn't like, let me go in there and kill the thing or whatever. Like, there was no concrete, I know what I'm going to do.
Also, she is a doctor in cellular biology, so she could run lab reports and help her husband, theoretically, if she does the blood work and all of that stuff. So I didn't understand that at all.
Right. And I mean, like, as we see later in the movie, when she took her own blood, you can see what's going on just by doing that. So it seemed a little odd to me, but, I mean, maybe we don't understand because we didn't read the books.
I think that is entirely fair, because it's the first in a series, and I was a little bit lost. I will say that a couple points in the movie, they did talk about things which are interesting.
Okay.
The whole changing your cellular structure across your entire body is going to change so very many things that we just take for granted.
Okay, like?
It's going to change your fingerprints, which would be good for crime. It's going to change how you think, and it's going to change the neural connections in your brain. It's going to change every aspect of who you are. Like, one person in this movie turned into a tree.
True.
Another one was mauled by a zombie bear.
Well, as Reddit calls it, Scream Bear.
Two bears. There are two people were mauled by the same zombie bear. Mm-hmm. But it changes how you think, and it made that one woman crazy. Like, actually crazy.
Yeah, very The Thing-esque.
It was very The Thing. You can't trust anybody, and I got a Thing vibe from a lot of the different shots and the different...
Well, tying everybody to a chair and kind
all
of
the fungal growth patterns and all of that was very reminiscent of The Thing.
Right. Now, we obviously did that on a
Previously.
separate podcast, so if you guys want to hear our thoughts on The Thing, I promise you won't be as disappointed as you are in this podcast.
I mean, visually this movie was stunning.
Oh, it was beautiful.
I mean, some of the CGI was not great.
Oh, the CGI. Do we want... Okay. So the CGI was horrible. And I have to say...
parts. I mean, some of the CGI was done reasonably well.
Well, I have to say, watching the movie, I thought to myself, this movie has to be from, like, 2010. It's not.
2018.
It's from 2018. And that... I was really surprised by that. Because it was... like
there's a higher standard now.
Right, and I think... Well, so I guess there's two schools of thought here. People that like sci-fi, I feel like might be a little bit more accepting of it because you're not expecting realistic. Where I'm somebody who very much dislikes anything unrealistic, so it was jarring to me. And it was like, wow, okay, I'm not scared at all because that's definitely CGI. Like,
well, I think one of the problems is that they chose very difficult to render things.
Right.
So there's that one scene where there's the amorphous blob of different colors, and that's not going to look like anything other than like
amorphous blob of colors.
Of colors.
Yeah.
Right. There's no way to make that look like an actual existing thing rather than CGI.
Right. Like, I mean, I think of some movies, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but like where they do CGI. Well, okay, you won't like this movie. Nobody on this podcast or listening to this podcast is going to like this movie, but if you think of Twilight, where they made the werewolf people, like they had the hair, like you could see the hair, and they very much modeled it after actual wolves, and then they kind of like grew it out from there. It was a little bit more realistic and less like, holy crap, that's CGI.
Well, I think a lot of movies do a tasteful job with the CGI. Like Lord of the Rings did a very good job of that, and that was a way earlier movie.
Right.
They almost set the standard for what is expected now.
Right. So, I mean, that bothered me. I think the other thing that was a little bit surprising to me was how it really seemed like a mesh between The Mist, Bird Box, and...
Well, it was an amalgamation of all kinds of weird things thrown hodgepodge together, and you're just going to watch this movie.
Right, and there was no resolution, which I know is Lovecraftian. I do know that.
Well, they did resolve it. They killed it with fire.
Yes, but at the end of the movie, you see, spoilers, I guess, but you see that she kills her clone, and
which is not
escapes.
her clone, it's herself, somehow.
Well, so that's the question. That's the question. Does she kill the clone or does she kill herself? Now, what people are saying on the internet is that she kills her clone, but she because of her DNA changing with
she is basically the clone of herself anyway.
She's become part of the Shimmer, so her DNA is changing and all of that. So that's what people are on the internet are saying. Other people are saying that when the clone touched the lighthouse and Kane, they received traits from them and then was able to switch with Natalie Portman's character, Alina, to then become the one that leaves. So I don't know... But again, there is no resolution, which is Lovecraftian. I realize that. But I just found it hard because I was like, okay, this whole time I was waiting for something to happen. And I felt like I was just kind of like left with like, what the heck just happened? Right.
So I wrote down, it's almost as if they built it to a point where they didn't have an ending. So they've been building this movie all the way through, very cinematic and very surreal. And they just didn't know how to go, yep, that's the end of the movie.
See, I think they intended to leave it vague and like leave people questioning and open-ended.
I think it's the first of the series, so if they had done the other subsequent movies on the series, it may have played in and made sense, chronologically.
I mean, that's possible. Or, I mean, really, they just wanted that like creepy, eerie vibe. I don't know. I have to be very clear that my negativity towards this very much comes from not liking sci-fi. So... I
mean, I like sci-fi, and I didn't care for this movie.
Well, I just want to be clear about that, because I know there is a very cult following with this movie, but anything unrealistic, I can deal with stretches of the imagination, but I can't deal with full-on, like, no, that's just impossible. And I couldn't do it.
You couldn't get there in this movie because it was so over the top.
Well, and I think it didn't give me enough to be able to make that leap. Like, I didn't get enough, like, okay, the Shimmer is a disease, or the Shimmer is an alien, or the Shimmer is something that could give me, like, a way to make that leap. It didn't give me any of that. So I was kind of just left there, like, well, I'm not feeling this.
I think that's fair. I mean, I honestly, I didn't. This movie went over my head because if you're meant to understand it, there's actually a clear resolution, then I didn't get it.
Right.
Other than her husband was not her husband, and she's not herself at the end of the movie.
Right. And I mean,
Spoilers.
the snake tattoo was a cool way to tie the theme together of self-destruction, which I did enjoy that. But I feel like that was the only thing that kind of gave me any kind of anchoring in the movie.
Well, it's a Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail in a perpetual loop.
Right.
Forever
And it appeared on people as they went into the shimmer.
Right.
So, I mean, that did give me a little bit of like, okay, this is a film about self-destruction and whatever, but I personally would have liked to hear more about that aspect of things and seen a little bit, maybe like giving a little bit of the background of the characters so you could kind of like feel for their self-destruction, not just be like, this is a water cooler story and now we're going to move on and they're going to die. Like, I don't know. One thing I wanted to ask you though is, this is being touted as a horror movie. Did you find it horror-esque? Because the internet did. They found it very scary, very creepy.
I mean, it did have elements of tense scenes and scary imagery. The zombie bear, the crocodile, shark, alligator, where a doctor, a psychologist, so someone who has been through a lot of schooling, asked if a crocodile and a shark could crossbreed. I'm sorry. You're a doctor. What?
Right. I mean, yeah, okay.
No, there's no okay. No. You're supposed to be a doctor. You're supposed to be an intelligent person.
I think that was more for the audience to kind of like bang them over the head over the fact that this is a...
Changing the genetics. I get that part of it, but at the same time, they could have found a different way to do that. Other than, is it a crossbreed?
No, I agree. Okay, so we are really crapping on this movie for far too long. Do you have a history minute?
I have a few history minutes.
Tyler's History Minute.
The first is, do you know who invented or who discovered cellular cells?
Why would I know that? Am I a scientist?
Was Robert Hooke. He discovered cells by looking at cork under a microscope.
Cork as in like in wine bottles?
Yes.
Oh.
And he did that in 1665, before we were even a country.
1662, Columbus sailed the ocean blue?
1492.
Dang. I tried really hard.
Then the next thing is Henrietta Lacks, who is responsible for the HeLa, which is the oldest cell line, a human cell line in medical research, where they took her genetic information without asking her and then just did all kinds of weird medical studies on it. And I mean, yes, it was a terrible thing to do, but I'm happy they did because it's
like an immortal cancer line or something.
Well, it's been involved in numerous patents and numerous medical discoveries, so it has helped tremendously with medical research. So on that side of things, it's a wonderful thing that they did.
Right.
The bad thing is they didn't tell her or ask her permission,
right?
And then she did not get any kind of compensation, nor did her family, over her genetic information being involved in all kinds of different clinical trials.
Right. Yeah, that's not okay.
Which is shady.
It is a good thing that she did for science, and I do hope that they have done something retroactively. All I know is that they have issued an apology.
Right. They did issue an apology, but at the same time,
they deserve compensation or something.
Well, they deserve some kind of recognition. I had never heard of her until this movie.
No, I hadn't either, but it was brought up in the movie. And
yes. I don't really know where to go from there.
Honestly. Okay, well, I mean, we are far past where we should be, so I guess we can move into ratings, although I did want to give a quick PSA that apparently recently in the world, a extinct species of a bear was found, and the news articles are comparing it to the bear in this movie because of its size and its just features and stuff.
That's interesting. I actually read an article recently that a bird evolved on an island and lost the ability to fly. The island sank below the ocean, so they all died out. Mm-hmm. And then the volcano made the island again, and new birds came and evolved in the exact same way a second time. So it's the same bird, but they died out and they naturally evolved exactly the same on that same island.
Interesting. Also not sure why we're mentioning it on this podcast, but you know, I mean, you guys come here for Tyler's
genetic
trivia
diversity,
tidbits.
and it's the whole genetic mutation, and it happened to work the same way 2 times in a row, which does not generally happen.
No, it doesn't generally happen. I do want to say, if you guys have not seen this movie, I did read a little thing on the internet, which I was planning on reading to you guys, but we are well over time. But basically, it stated that this movie you won't enjoy unless you fully immerse yourself. It suggests watching it in a theater, which obviously you cannot do anymore. But it says if you're not gonna be able to watch it in theater, make sure you turn the lights down low and you have no phone or anything near you, because if you don't, you won't appreciate the movie because you're gonna feel lost and confused. When really that is the point of the movie, but full immersion is completely important. So I will admit I did not do that. I was definitely on my phone. I same thing I always do with every movie, and it doesn't usually cause an issue. But if you're going to watch it, try it that way to see if maybe you can appreciate it a little bit more than we do.
That might actually help. I do have one random last piece of trivia. It's going to tie this to the Patriots, because I always do that.
Oh boy. Man crush coming your way.
It's not Tom Brady this time. So the woman who loses her mind was on the rap battle showdown with Rob Gronkowski from the Patriots.
The rap battle showdown.
There's a TV show where celebrities rap against each other.
Oh, okay. Didn't know.
I think
that
it's Celebrity
exists.
Rap Battle.
Oh.
But she faced off against Rob Gronkowski, Gronk, and killed him.
Oh, now I need to see this. So
I just figured that's amusing because I saw it and it was just, he's a very good football player and not a very good rapper.
Okay then. So yeah, there you go, guys. You have a YouTube video you can now watch after this podcast.
Yeah. All right, ratings.
So ratings, go ahead.
Reviews.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes has it at 87.
Wow.
Audience score of 66. So it's the...
That does not normally happen. Audience is usually higher than...
Right. So I think this movie is well regarded amongst cinema buffs, but the average person doesn't care for this movie, which I think I fall into that category.
Yep, I do too.
I was going to give it a 6.75 or a 7.
Okay.
Just because I found it a difficult, almost lecture-like process to pay attention to this movie.
And it was funny because you were excited for this movie.
I was excited from the trailer, but then when I got to the movie, it was almost like sitting in a intro to bio lecture. And I was just like, oh god, nope.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, it gets high marks for the cinematography and the colors and all of that. I just... No.
No. Okay. So everyone's going to hate me, but I was going to give it a 5. Which, first of all, I am happy that we finally are watching a movie that we don't sing the praises to, because we do that a lot lately. And we usually give between 8 and 9. So we're not doing that. No. We're changing it up a little.
We're crapping all over this movie. And
I don't mean to crap all over it, but for one, I do not enjoy sci-fi. But also, not being able to follow it, not being able to connect. Maybe my score would go up if I read the book, which I will do. I think I'm going to order the book. I do think that could change. So anybody who's read the book, I would love to hear if you think that would alter our score, because I am totally down for reading almost anything, but I would like to know if that'll alter my score. But anyways, that's it for ratings for me.
Next week's movie?
Next week's movie is my choice, and it's the current movie, which I picked Charlie Says. So it came out in theaters actually last week, but apparently very few select theaters, and it's coming to Amazon Prime Friday, May 17th. So if you guys want to see it, watch it on Amazon Prime. It'll be there May 17th, and you can watch it with us. It's about the Charles Manson murders. It looks really good, obviously, because it's not coming till May 17th. We have not seen it.
There have been so many Manson things related or serial killer things related recently. There's the Ted Bundy tapes and all of that stuff that we have to catch up on.
Right. Now, I will say that going into this movie, I have read Helter Skelter. I have seen a Charles Manson documentary on Netflix. So I do have a little bit of background. Have you done any of those?
I have not. I know some of the basics of what happened, but I don't have the same level of background. I can borrow your copy of Helter Skelter.
Okay. So we do have a little bit of background. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. So guys, watch it May 17th. It comes out Amazon Prime. It's called Charlie Says.
Next week, I'm sedating the dog. I'm sorry. She's been opening and closing that door. I'm also going to grease the hinges. It's been a bit of a journey. I'm currently holding her against myself like a football.
Yeah, so sorry about that. But anyways, I want to say thank you to Jake Adathis Music for our intro and outro music. And if you guys want to reach out to us on Twitter or on Facebook, it's Cinematically Correct's listener group on Facebook and at CinematicallyC, Twitter as well as Instagram, and cinematicallycorrect@gmail.com if you'd like to email us. And we will see you next week for Charlie Says.